According to Jehovah's Witnesses, Tobiah, also spelled Tobiah, is a significant figure mentioned in the Bible, primarily in the book of Nehemiah. His story offers lessons about opposition to God's work and maintaining spiritual vigilance. Here's a detailed account of what is shared about Tobiah based on the Bible and teachings from Jehovah's Witnesses, as reflected on their official website, jw.org. Who was Tobiah? Tobiah was an Ammonite official during the time of Nehemiah, the governor of Jerusalem in the 5th century BCE. His role is primarily highlighted in the account of the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem after the Jews returned from Babylonian exile. Tobiah, along with other opponents like Sanballat and Geshem, opposed the rebuilding effort. His opposition was rooted in political and possibly religious motives, as he was likely concerned about losing influence in the region if Jerusalem became fortified and more self-sufficient. Tobiah's actions against Nehemiah and the rebuilding effort. Tobiah is portrayed as an adversary of Nehemiah and the Jews. His opposition unfolded in several ways. Mockery and ridicule. Tobiah mocked the efforts of the Jews, belittling their work. He sarcastically remarked that even a fox climbing on their wall would break it down. Nehemiah chapter 4 verse 3. This ridicule was intended to discourage and demoralize the builders. Alliance with other opponents. Tobiah formed alliances with Sanballat and others to conspire against Nehemiah. Together, they sought to hinder the reconstruction work by spreading false rumors and intimidating the workers. Attempted infiltration. Tobiah had connections within Jerusalem, as some nobles of Judah maintained correspondence with him. Nehemiah chapter 6 verses 17 to 19. He was related by marriage to influential Jewish families, which gave him access to information and support within the city. This alliance was a significant challenge to Nehemiah's efforts to unite the people in the worship of Jehovah. Defilement of the temple. After the walls were rebuilt, Tobiah managed to gain access to a chamber in the temple through his association with Eliashib, the priest who was in charge of the storerooms. Tobiah used the chamber, which was meant for storing sacred items, for his personal use. Nehemiah chapter 13 verses 4 to 7. This was a blatant defilement of the temple's sanctity and demonstrated his disregard for Jehovah's laws. Nehemiah's response to Tobiah. Nehemiah demonstrated unwavering loyalty to Jehovah and did not allow Tobiah's schemes to succeed. He took decisive actions. Prayer and reliance on God. Nehemiah prayed for strength and guidance, asking Jehovah to deal with the enemies who opposed his work. Nehemiah chapter 4 verses 4 to 5. Fortifying the work. Nehemiah encouraged the workers to stay vigilant and arm themselves against potential attacks. He inspired the people to trust in Jehovah and not succumb to fear. Expulsion of Tobiah. When Nehemiah returned to Jerusalem after a period of absence, he discovered Tobiah's occupancy of the temple chamber. Nehemiah immediately threw Tobiah's belongings out of the room, had it cleansed, and restored it to its intended use for temple service. Nehemiah chapter 13 verses 8 to 9. Lessons from Tobiah's actions. Jehovah's Witnesses draw valuable lessons from Tobiah's opposition to Nehemiah. Opposition to true worship. Tobiah's actions highlight how individuals or groups may try to obstruct efforts to worship Jehovah or carry out his work. Jehovah's Witnesses believe this is a timeless pattern and recognize the importance of staying firm in their faith. Spiritual vigilance. Just as Nehemiah took action against Tobiah's infiltration, Christians are reminded to be vigilant against any influences that could defile their worship or weaken their spiritual integrity. Courage and faith. Nehemiah's steadfast response to Tobiah's opposition teaches the importance of relying on Jehovah during trials. Courage, prayer, and adherence to God's guidance are essential to overcoming challenges. Avoiding compromise. Tobiah's alliances with Jewish nobles show the dangers of compromising with those who oppose Jehovah's standards. Jehovah's Witnesses emphasize maintaining spiritual purity and avoiding harmful associations. The broader context of Tobiah's story. Tobiah's opposition occurred during a critical time for the Jewish people. Rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem was not just a physical task but a spiritual one that signified the restoration of their relationship with Jehovah. Tobiah's attempts to thwart this effort illustrate how opposition can come from both external and internal sources. The account encourages Jehovah's Witnesses to remain faithful and alert, trusting that Jehovah will support his people. Please share and like and please subscribe.